Now, I'm saying it that way to make an analogy, that as Christians, many times, and I would like to say it's universal, but I guess I've never taken a survey, so I can't say that, but I say we shouldn't be surprised if as Christians, especially as we start out, things hang on to us and things tend to be bondages and bind us, things pertaining to that way we used to be. But we're not that anymore. We're new on the inside. But notice what Jesus said. Notice these words of Jesus. He doesn't say, oh, well, that's just the way it is. Just make the best of it. He says, loose him and let him go. He wants Lazarus to be free from those grave clothes. He wants us to be free from all those things. Okay, having said that, and we all can agree with that and know that's true, how does it happen? How does it get free? Well, with this physically dead person with physical grave clothes, all they had to do was unwind it and take it off of him. Let's just talk for a moment about this since I brought it up. Look in Ephesians chapter 4 for a moment. Paul tells us, and it's pretty interesting what he says. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 22. Let's just take a look at it. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 22. Paul says, that you put off concerning the former conversation. I like the King James just fine, but sometimes language has changed in the previous, past 400 years. The word conversation here means manner of life, or concerning the way you live, or concerning your behavior. Literally, the word conversation means the way you live in relation to other people, in relation to others. The way you live in relation to others, concerning that you put off the old man, which is corrupt, according to the deceitful lusts. And I'll skip for a moment down to verse 24. Notice what he says here, verse 24. And that you put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. Now we've got an old man and we've got a new man. The new man is the man on the inside, like Lazarus who had life on the inside. The new man is the new you, the new creation in Christ, the man on the inside. Notice he says, created after God. That means like God. Created in righteousness and true holiness. Now go back to verse 22 for a moment. By contrast, he says, put off, just like he told Lazarus, or said to them, loose him and let him go, the grave clothes. Put off, or take off, or put away, put off the former conversation, or manner of life, the old man, which is corrupt, like those grave clothes, according to the deceitful lust. Now, we've seen that one we're supposed to put off and one put on. How do you do that? The verse in between that I skipped over tells us. Verse 23, look at that. This is very important. How do you do that? Be renewed in the spirit of your mind. That's how it's done. Be renewed in the spirit of your mind. Let me read it again. Be renewed, where? In the spirit of your mind. Or, say it another way, the way you think. What you think about. How you think, especially about yourself. How do you see yourself? Be renewed, or be renovated, or adopt a new way of thinking about yourself. Now, Paul can identify with this because he's working as a counselor at a BJCC. But first time I ever went, I remember vividly the first time I ever went there for any reason, it was with a Promise Keepers meeting. And I used to go to, they don't meet anymore, but when we used to have Promise Keepers meetings on Monday nights, we would meet in different churches. And, every other Monday we would go to a different church and just rotate around. And then one week we said, where will we go next week? And nobody volunteered. So a man that was there named Bill Rule. Do you know him, Paul? Bill Rule? Yeah, he was working at that time, I think, in the kitchen at BJCC. And he says, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we go out to Bill Johnson Correctional Center and we'll meet in the kitchen and I'll invite some of the trainees to come and we'll meet with them and have a Promise Keepers meeting there. And we thought, hey, that sounds like a great idea. And so Bill arranged that and we went there. So here we are then around this big round table, and let's just say there's 6 or 7 Promise Keepers and 6 or 7 of the men, trainees. And so before we got started, we were going to introduce ourselves. Seems like a nice, polite thing to do, and that's what we did. And so the Promise Keepers, each one of them, introduced themselves. And it was, I'm so-and-so, I'm a farmer. Or I'm so-and-so, I'm a veterinarian. Or I'm so-and-so, I work at the drugstore. Or I'm so-and-so, I'm a this. I'm so-and-so, I'm a that. See how that works? You know how introductions are. And that's the way it went with the Promise Keepers. But then when it got around to the trainees, it said, I'm so-and-so, I'm here for drug violations. Or I'm so-and-so, I've got assault or something. They started telling all the charges that brought them to Bill Johnson. And I thought to myself, wow, that's how they see themselves. That's their identity. They see themselves as drug dealer, or person who got in a fight and, injured someone. Or they see themselves according to, we might say, the old man, or their flesh, or the outside, or what they had done wrong. See, these guys probably, and I, of course no one knows the hearts, but I would assume they wouldn't have been there, they wouldn't have come to that if they either weren't Christians or didn't have some kind of Christian leanings, But see, the point of it is, notice what Paul here says, verse 22, that you put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. What does that mean? You're not who you used to be. Don't think about yourself that way. Did you know that concerning our behavior, we don't act in any way different than who we see ourselves to be? Did you know that? And so he says, replace it with the new man. Now here's a good thought that you should take to heart. You are not a vacuum. You are not a vacuum. You can't just not do the bad things. You can't just not do what's wrong. You have to replace it with, you can't just not see yourself. I am not going to see myself. It's sort of like when somebody's on a diet. I will not think about food. I will not think about food. That doesn't work. Because all the time you're saying, I will not think about food, you're thinking about food. You have to replace it with something else. So Paul doesn't just here say, put off the old man. He says, replace it. Put on the new man. You're not who you used to be. You are somebody different. And who are you that's different? That you put on, verse 24. The new man, which like God. Did you know what after God means, like God? Now I'm taking a chance here because I haven't previewed the Amplified, so I don't know what it says. But let's just take a chance. Anton, put on the Amplified translation on this. Let's just see what it says. And you put on the new nature, the regenerate self. Listen, created in God's image. God-like. The real you is, listen, not it's trying to be like God. It's God-like already. The new you is God-like. The man on the inside. The person on the inside. God-like. In God's image. In true righteousness. In holiness. Notice that those aren't things, goals to strive after. You're created that way. That's who you are right now. True righteousness. True holiness. And if you let that you on the inside guide you and lead you, it will lead you in paths of righteousness and true holiness. Look at something else with it while you're with me here. If you would, go back to Galatians just for a minute. Here's a parallel passage. Galatians chapter 5. Look at this. I think this is really interesting. By the way, this truth that I've just been expounding to you, this is why a Christian, when his body dies, I just got there saying he doesn't die, Jesus said it, a Christian who departs, Paul said it's better to depart and be with Christ. If you depart here, there's no in between, you go to be with Christ. You know why? Why? Because you are already Christ-like on the inside. You're already right. You're righteous enough on the inside to go. Now, you might not be living it out perfectly in your body. You might make mistakes on the outward expression of it, but in your spirit, that part, see, your body's not going anywhere. Hate to, I don't want to be the bearer of bad tidings, but this body's not going anywhere. But the you on the inside is going somewhere. And to be with Christ, you're ready to go and stand in the presence of God right now because you're created in righteousness and true holiness.